how to discover and resolve our unmet needs in a relationship. So, first of all, just in case anyone is wondering, why would we want to do that? Why would we want to discover and resolve our unmet needs? Basically, the healthiest place in a relationship, hey Emily, the healthiest place to come into relationship is when we don't actually need one, right? Because this means, hey Dale, when we don't actually need a relationship, this means that we are not projecting unrealistic expectations onto our partner, and we can actually be present with them, and we're not creating some kind of fantasy relationship that is going to disappoint us and fall apart because of never really being able to meet each other, right? So this is the reason why we would want to be fulfilled before a relationship. And I was just having a dinner with some really great people. We were just talking about how the real juiciness of a relationship, when you don't need it, when you don't need anything from it, is you get to play really hard. You get to evolve together, co-evolve together, and there's no longer these underlying codependent energies of projecting, I need you to save me, or I can't be alone, I can't be without you, it hurts too much, it's like my other half, you know. We fuse with the other person, and even at a physical level, we were just talking about this at dinner also, there's a single, in a relationship, there's a single hormonal system where the two bodies become so accustomed to each other, they act as one, and the pheromones of the bodies actually become like a single being. And so when you are apart, it's like your body actually believes there is a part of me that's missing, there's a part of me that's not here. And this is actually created by codependency. So if the codependent energies are resolved, the pheromones, the hormones, will actually respond differently. Isn't this fascinating? It's like our physical reality truly manifests based on our beliefs and based on our addictions and based on the way that we attach to the other person. And so it's in first discovering, identifying these attachments, and then learning how to resolve them, not by, cord cutting or making the other person wrong or making the relationship wrong. It's really about being able to learn to decide and to learn how to meet these vibrations for ourselves, so that we no longer need the other person to make us feel a certain way, to make us feel whole. They originally, if we have codependent energies, they may start the relationship may start knowing that there's some kind of savior programming running, right? Like, I need this person to save me from this and this, or just recognizing, I don't need to be saved, but my nervous system believes it needs to be saved. And so I'm going into this relationship knowing there are codependent energies running, but I'm conscious of it, and I'm conscious that my nervous system is trying to, for a man especially, like, get the mother wound resolved, or for a woman especially, get the father wound resolved, and to get the other half to be there for you in the way that the mother or father wasn't, but really we are learning how to anchor these vibrations into ourselves on our own, intentionally. So try this out. Try this. Think of somebody that you feel really safe around, that you feel extra special around, or extra seen by, extra held by, or they'll protect you in some way, or they'll give you something that you don't normally seem to have. So think of that person and imagine that they are sitting next to you right now. And you can actually start to feel the vibrations of pleasure in your body, like, oh, now I have what I want. Now I have, maybe it's a significant other, maybe it's a parent who keeps you safe, maybe it's a mentor or just a close friend, whoever it is. Notice the calming or excited or just happy feeling of imagining that they're sitting there with you. So here's the magic, is they're not actually sitting there with you. It's their being that gives you permission to feel that way. And what if you had permission all the time? Right? What if their being in your life is something you specifically called in so that you could learn how to feel that way without them? Right? This is the magic of truly evolving in a relationship, is being able to anchor in the vibrations, the permissions that the other person brings, and normalize that. Make that into your new everyday experience without having to think about it, without having to visualize them. So identifying the need first, like, what does this person give me? Does this person make me feel safe? Does this person make me feel honored? I have a need to feel safe. I have a need to feel honored. I have a need to feel like I'm entertaining somebody. This is a big one for me. I have a need to feel like my jokes are being laughed at, right? I have a need to feel like I'm clever. I have a need to feel like I'm smart. I have a need to feel like, fill in the blank with whatever you are getting from the other person. So you identify the need, right? And then once you know what the need is, you can inquire deeper. So I can just do it for myself. And feel free to share with me on the chat here, what is it that you feel you're needing from a relationship? What is it that you feel you are getting from a relationship, vibrationally speaking? What is your fundamental benefit of the relationship? We'd love to hear in the comments. So for myself, it's oftentimes like I want someone to entertain. I want someone to make them laugh. And so what is the purpose of making someone laugh? Why would I want that? For me, and for most people, it's that I'm making an impact. Okay, so if I'm making someone like breathe, like ha ha ha, like uncontrollably, ha ha ha, which is what laughter is. It's like uncontrollable breathing that they don't expect. It's my nervous system wanting a couple of things. Wanting control, right? Because if I get this sort of surprise control, which is harmless, control is not a bad thing, but I'm controlling someone else's nervous system when I'm making them laugh. So it gives me that safety, that sense of certainty. But even bigger, for a lot of people and for myself, is making an impact. Noticing that we are noticed, being seen, being felt, You know, a lot of us subconsciously have this question, do I really exist? Am I really a person on this planet? Am I actually felt, and am I actually, if I'm not making an impact, am I even real? You know, imagine being Tom Hanks on the movie Castaway, where he's on this desert island and he's not making an impact on anybody for, 4 years or something. And that's why he has this, a volleyball that he paints his face on, Wilson. And so he says something to Wilson, and then the camera zooms in on Wilson, and Wilson's reaction. Oh, sorry, I got Wi-Fi connection issue for a second. So Wilson's reaction, the camera zooms in for a moment, and Wilson is like, right? So it's funny, you know, it's like comedic film editing, because Wilson has no impact, no reaction. And so Tom Hanks can make a joke on Castaway, and then Wilson's just completely blank. And this is very lonely if you don't have a sense of self, if you don't have a sense of, if you're still looking to individuate, right? And so individuation is the psychological process of knowing that you are separate from your parents, especially from your mother, because when you're inside of your mother growing in the womb, there is no difference. You're basically one person because you are a unit physically, emotionally, chemically, spatially, right? You are one being. And so being born and learning to be separate, learning to be your own person, learning to have your own willpower is individuation. And so individuation is a very important step. You know, a lot of what we're doing, what I talk about and what we're doing in this kind of community is, awakening out of the ego, right? But we can only really do that if we first come into full contact with the ego, which is the psychological process of individuating. And so in relationships with another person, parts of us are individuating and parts of us are waking up, right? Some of our aspects are already individuated, and some of our aspects need still to be individuated. And so let me know if this is making sense. You know, when you give me some hearts or questions or confirmations, it helps me. It's like you're nodding your head, having a conversation, so that I'm not, totally just talking to myself. Because I too like to see I'm making an impact. I like to see that this is landing with you, and this is the purpose of relationships too, in a deeper way, is getting that reflection of, yeah, I hear you, I see you, I understand you. You're not crazy, right? Your thoughts, your feelings are relevant, and it's not just for boosting the ego. It's not just for self-esteem issues or anything like that, but it's actually like, do I need to adjust something? Like, is this making sense? Do I need to be more clear? Can I get more feedback on who I am as a person, just so I can be more productive and relatable for society, right? So relationships are so powerful because it gives us that really deep fine-tuning, because other than the time we spend with ourselves, our intimate relationships are usually the person we spend the most time with. And so they give us that really essential feedback. Like, every time you say this story, nobody really understands you, you know? And so maybe the need that we're getting in an example like that, the need we're getting met in a relationship is that feedback. And so we can even discover, well, if that's what I'm getting out of a relationship, you know, A, does it need to be even romantic to achieve that? Can I get the same thing with a coach? Can I get the same thing with a friend or business partner of some kind? And then, you know, what is the romantic component about? Romantic relationships are so interesting because very often we just have this default perspective, which is like, I'm single, so therefore I'm, you know, I need to be in a relationship. And I'm not saying that I'm immune to this. I have the same thoughts happening for me often too. And the only difference is I'm really curious and I'm interested in questioning them. Why do I desire to be in a relationship? What is the need I don't feel I can get met on my own? You know, we talked a little bit already about the need to be seen, the desire to be seen. So, and for those of you who show up late, I suggested just an exercise of feeling what it's like to be seen already without a person actually being in a physical space with you. And so feel into that a little bit. What else in your life feels like having a relationship, or if you're already in a relationship, having the right relationship or having a better relationship? What does it feel like it would actually give you? What would it save you from? You know, that's the key word, is save. If you're not familiar with the drama triangle, there's the savior, the victim, the perpetrator. Right? So the perpetrator is the one who is hurting, the savior is the one who is saving, and the victim is the one who is victimized by the perpetrator. And the savior is the one who's saving the victim from the perpetrator. So if we have, for example, you know, even unconsciously, maybe a parent that we can't stand, you know, my evil mother, my evil father, and then we find this really lovely person of that, you know, corresponding gender, or if you are gay or bisexual and this doesn't apply to you, just fill in the blank for me. So we have a tendency when we find a person we're attracted to identify the positive parent qualities in them, the qualities that represent something we like about our parents. And then as we get to know them more, eventually we start to see the qualities we don't like about our same parent. And so usually it takes a little bit of time after this honeymoon phase of the fantasy relationship to move into the real relationship, where we start to resent the what we would call negative qualities, or the bad parent qualities. And that is exactly what puts us into the victim role. So usually in a codependent relationship, when we feel that we need it, we want to be saved. And so the savior role of that relationship is not a comfortable one to be in long term. It might feel romantic right at first, like, oh, I want to help this person with their spirituality, or I want to help this person find a great home, or I want to save this person from their job, or I want to inspire this person, or I want to fix this person, right? Wanting to be the savior or wanting to be the one who is saved. is what puts us into this drama triangle. And so the invitation here is to really discover, why do I desire to be in a relationship, right? And keeping in mind that nothing is wrong with this. This isn't a judgment, but both pain and desire are the foundation of wounding, right? So if we have a wound, it's going to have pain on one polarity and desire on the other. And so if we're desiring another person, again, nothing is wrong with this, and this is very healthy to, it's healthy to have wounds, nothing, it's a part of growing. But the desire comes from the wound, and we're looking to be saved. If we're in desire, we're not in having. If we're in desire, we are in lack in some way. We believe we are lacking. And so what vibration do we need to save us is according to our wounding, what vibration does our wounding believe will save us? And that is the vibration that particular partner that we're attracted to, or potential partner or whatever, that vibration is exactly what we're looking for permission to embody, right? So if you're familiar with the microcosmic orbit, it's basically our sexual energy starting at the base of our spine, running up our spine, moving through our head, moving through where the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, coming down to the stomach, and then going back down to the base of the spine and continuing, right? And so this is healthy energy movement. And if we are running that energy, right, we're running our microcosmic orbit energy. If it's healthy, there's no stagnancy, there's no hiccups, there's nowhere where it gets blocked. And most people don't have a healthy microcosmic orbit. And most people are looking for a partner as a puzzle piece to run that energy in a healthier way. And then so when you get that partner, it's like, oh, finally, finally I have someone to save me from my own energy, right? You see how that works? I have someone to save me from my own blockage. And so if we don't actually use that person, and I am specifically saying use our relationship to clear that blockage, then we are bonded with them by our shadows. And then that is prison. You see that? Codependency is prison, because we cannot feel good with it or without it, and then we're basically fucked. It's an interlocking of neediness and supply. It's like it becomes transactional. It may be totally unconscious, right? But it's still transactional. And nothing is wrong with a transaction, because like I said, relationships are for using each other, but we can do that still with love. And we can do that in a way that creates a partnership of co-evolution, so that I see where you think that you need me, and you see where I think that I need you. And by helping each other to unwind and resolve these blockages is a very courageous thing to do. That means I allow you to stop needing me by giving you my secrets, how I vibrate the way that I do, so that you are able to be free of me so that I cannot manipulate you or hold anything over on you. And this can be very scary, because if you don't need me, how do I know you're not going to break up with me? How do I know you're not going to go do something without me? How do I know you're not going to find someone different? I don't know. And that's really the magic. Is a true sovereign relationship is we are choosing each other not because we need each other, but because we just want to. It's just, we're just here to play. We're just here to play. And if you really believe that you're worthy enough to be in a relationship where the other person doesn't actually need you, and where you are just there to play, you must be a really fun person to play with, right? If you're confident in yourself to have a relationship that is all about play, and there can be some interdependence, like, you pick up the groceries while I pick up the kids. You do some trading of responsibilities and stuff, whatever. But that's not foundationally emotional dependency. And it's that emotional dependency that creates addiction to another person and disempowerment. And again, I welcome any questions here, any perspectives on how this fits into your life. If what I'm saying resonates with you, let me know. Would love to hear some comments. It helps me kind of bounce my energy off of what is real and relevant for you. So that would be great. So, there's a interesting phenomenon that happens, which is, people who are active in one chakra are usually going to be attracted to someone who's active in another chakra. So they're going to be like puzzle pieces. Like, I have this puzzle piece, you have this puzzle piece, and just magnetically we're like, so then you get to impress each other, you get to benefit each other, you get to transact, and it can feel so gratifying. People confuse that for love, and that's not to say there's not also love present. There can very well be love present, but that transaction itself is a transaction, right? Love is not a transaction. And so if we're only using each other and we don't actually know how to love, then that's when relationships become very problematic and confusing and stagnant. And that's when people have to start going to therapy and stuff, because they started off needing each other, right? And unconsciously, right? I have to be very specific with my words here, because it's okay to need each other if it's conscious and you can identify what is codependent about my relationship, so that I can, without judgment, play with that. I've had some really wonderful experiences with a former partner of mine where we do these like radical honesty exercises. I'll say something like, wow, I'm noticing I really want you to kind of save me and mother me and hold my hand and tell me that you love me and that you're never going to leave me. And then she would say something like, wow, hearing that, I feel a little bit disgusted, and I kind of want to reject you, and I kind of want to, not be around you anymore. And then I would say something like, oh, wow, hearing that, I feel needy, and see, we're just kind of doing this exercise, and it's giving a voice to the nervous system. It's not personal. It's not the voice of our soul. It's literally just unraveling the nervous system, being seen, having a process witnessed, and it's magical. It's so easy, right? Because our nervous system has all these characters, and by setting up a safe space and giving voice to our characters, there's such a relief, right? This is the key word that brings us into alignment with our soul, into alignment with abundance, into alignment with our creativity, into alignment with our sexuality, our confidence. Relief is the key. And so what our soul or what our nervous system needs to experience that relief, to be able to make more space in the body for the soul to actually inhabit, is just to be seen, heard, and felt authentically in a safe way where it's not going to be a threat to somebody. So if I say to somebody, you're such an asshole, you're such a piece of poop, whatever, if I'm identifying as that character, it's a threat to them. They are having their social status threatened, which means on a survival level, they're having their life threatened. If I think that they're a piece of poop, then I could go tell the whole world, how much they suck, and then they could get booed off stage for the rest of their life, and it's literally a threat to their life, according to the, survival brain. However, if I say, my nervous system wants to call you some names just because I'm triggered and that wants to be expressed right now. I don't believe this, but would you mind if I just entertain this for a minute and give myself some space to be heard? Okay, thanks for your permission. Here we go. I'm going to start this exercise now. You are such an asshole. I can't stand you. You are such a piece of poop. I wish you would go take a long walk off a short pier. Whew, okay. I discharged the extra energy from my nervous system. I released what needed to be spoken. I was seen as I wanted to be seen, and I didn't do it in a way that threatened the other person. I didn't identify as that archetype. I simply let it move out of my mouth as I was the witness of it, because I don't believe that, my soul doesn't speak like that. The soul doesn't complain. This is a great quote. If you want to write this in the comments or something for me. The soul doesn't complain. The soul doesn't have a fear. The soul doesn't have any problems, right? So if we're complaining, if we have a fear, if we have problems, these are always going to be coming from the nervous system, aka the ego, the mind, which there's nothing wrong with it, right? This is not about making the ego or the mind or the nervous system wrong. It's the inner child. It's the wounded aspect of us. And our job is to support it. Our job is to be there, to show up and show up and show up and nurture this wounded inner child so that it can relax, so that we can grieve the losses that we've had in our lives, so that we can remember that there is just so much available power and electricity that we can run through our systems once the nervous system is simply relaxed enough to handle this higher frequency. And again, this higher frequency is what gives us the access to the friendships we've always desired, the abundance we've always desired, the creativity we've always desired. We have so many freaking superpowers that are just locked up in our nervous system. I'm not suggesting you do all this stuff to be a good person. I'm not suggesting you do all this stuff because, you owe it to us. This is for you. This is going to make your life so much better. By releasing these kinks in the hose, your energy just feels like you. You want to feel more like you. Yeah? So, this is why I have recently decided to stop using the term spirituality or being spiritual or anything like that, because there's a group of people that call themselves spiritual, and there's more people who don't. And if you're making this stuff just spiritual, it leaves out the majority of people. And this is not spiritual stuff. This is not like, how would you say it? This is not like fluffy ideas. This is like down and dirty, I want to have a good day kind of stuff. This is like, I want to express my genius and make more money kind of stuff. This is, how can I have a partnership that is fulfilling to me, right? This is very practical. And sure, there's like practical spirituality, but most people don't know that that's a thing or that really exists. And so for me, this is just common sense. This is like common sense, practical relationship handling. Yeah? So just feel into how it feels for being able to convey, let's say to like non-spiritual family members or something like that, how the needs of anybody can be met by themselves. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to be a convert. You don't have to be, this is all very basic, and you can give someone like the example I gave before, have someone sit next to you or pretend like someone's sitting next to you and just see how your energy changes in that pretending. And when you give anybody a practical experience of energy, it shows them that this has nothing to do with belief, right? In fact, my whole purpose here is to help people to dissolve all beliefs. Dissolve all of your belief systems. We don't need to replace one belief system with another after the individuation process. We do need to have a belief system we can get behind to fully individuate, but then after the individuation process, it's our job to disassemble all of our beliefs and approach reality directly and get into direct contact with the participatory nature of our soul. I'm just going to take a breath, and again, I invite questions or how you relate to what's being shared. Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Umar. Dale says, attachment is a shadow, but giving away those secrets of vibration create more attachment because you are giving away parts of you. Let me digest that. I'm not sure I got that. Giving away those secrets of vibrations creates more attachment because you are giving away parts of you. Not sure I got that, but so attachment is, shadow is already kind of a sticky word. So let's not necessarily use the word shadow because it can be looked at as evil, like, ooh, evil lurks in the shadows, right? We're not trying to make anything wrong, right? Attachment isn't wrong. When I enter into a relationship, I plan on attaching, right? I am going to attach. My codependent aspects, my woundings, are going to attach. The only thing that makes it a shadow is that I can't see it, right? Like there's no light on it. But if there is light on it, it's no longer going to be attached in the same way. It's no longer going to be a dependency, right? So the body gets attached and the mind gets attached. In all likelihood, we're not ever going to be able to stop the body from getting attached. Like I was saying, there are chemical, or what are they called? Pheromones. We create a singular pheromone hormonal system with a partner, and that's how the body knows that we are in union. It's like we are designed to be attracted to each other's scent and stuff like that. And that is likely not going to change because that is physical. But the mental attachments, that is what we change. And when we have, I'm pointing to the head for mental, but the mental body covers the whole nervous system, head to toe, right? And so that literally means if I have wounding in my legs, emotional wounding in my legs, that can be attached to the emotional wounding of my partner, the victim-savior dynamic. And there's, like I said, nothing wrong with that, but that is what creates thoughts, and that is what creates mental attachments, and that is what creates projections, and that is what creates abuse, and that is what creates codependency, and that's what creates a lack of proper boundaries, which is codependency. And so this is the whole purpose of individuation, because individuation is what gives us the ability to hold clear boundaries and to see this is where I end and you begin, right? So again, I just want to emphasize this one point. So I'm going to take it slow. So many people are so interested in awakening. So many people are so interested in becoming enlightened. This is maybe possible, but not healthy if we haven't yet individuated, right? Because if we don't individuate and we wake up mentally, we are waking up without proper boundaries. So we're waking up while we're still in a codependent state. And that's very dangerous. This is like, the example I like to use is Genghis Khan was an enlightened being. And so he hadn't resolved his codependency issues, but enlightenment is basically fearlessness. So he took that mental enlightenment where he hadn't enlightened the heart. He hadn't created what he needed in the heart to be able to operate in a compassionate way. And so he raped and pillaged. He became a warmonger. And enlightenment can be very dangerous if you haven't individuated. So most people need to focus their, what you would call spiritual efforts on individuating, which is emotional, psychological. This is the adulting. Most people need to adult more than they need to awaken. Awaken. So this is the, actually I'll come back to the title of this piece. the, the need most people have in a relationship, the need primarily is, I need you to help me individuate. This is the need most people are in relationships for. And most people think they're in relationships for other reasons. If you think about having sex in a relationship, how good it feels when the other person, who you're having sex with, is making sounds, right? You know, all the sexy sounds. I'm sure you love that impression, right? All the sexy sounds feel so good because we are making an impact on that person. We are experiencing their separate experience. We are so close to them, and yet, while we're feeling like one in certain ways, we're also feeling our separateness. And we get to be surprised by them. We get to be, ask requests of each other, that kind of thing. And this shows us it's okay to have an impact. And it feels good to have an impact. And if you're being impacted, I must exist. And if you're being impacted, you must see me. You must feel me. Right? And so this process of being seen and felt, this is the individuation process. Somebody who is awakening, enlightening, doesn't need that because you're letting go of the need to be seen and felt, right? So you first have to know that you are seen and felt before you can let go of the need to be. It's a logical order, right? And this comes down to our primary wounding, which is the belonging wound. The belonging wound is the one that hasn't yet been individuated. So if we're afraid of being rejected, if we're afraid of being abandoned, if we're afraid of not being good enough, right? This is all the belonging wound. I don't belong. I'm so afraid of being alone. But as we purge the belonging wound, which for me has lived like in front of my heart and then also kind of like down close to, like on the left side, my stomach and stuff like that, my spleen. Maybe different for you. But the belonging wound, as we purge this, it gives us the experience of, wow, I no longer need someone's approval. I no longer need a partner. I no longer need really anything. And I can just be happy and self-sufficient and whatever. And once we have done that, then it becomes interesting to awaken. But if we try to do that earlier, before the individuation process, then it's essentially abusive to ourselves. And if we get into a relationship where two people aspire to awaken and they're not aspiring to individuate, they're in a codependent relationship if they haven't already individuated. Does that make sense? There's a lot of probably new concepts here, and I talk about it in kind of a mechanical way, right? There's like a bunch of these, I'm just like visualizing as I'm talking about it. So yeah, if you have any questions about the details, it's kind of getting late here, so I'm probably going to wrap up pretty soon, but happy to to talk about any points that were made that you'd like more clarity on. Thanks, Dana. Glad it's resonating. Let's see if there's anything else that needs to be touched on here. I try to make these comprehensive so that I can point to the video later and say, check out this video. So don't want to string you along for a bunch of different videos if I can avoid it. So yeah, your questions are always helpful. Taya asks, what if we are not afraid of being alone? What when it's the opposite? Fear of enmeshment, fear of commitment. Oh yeah, good point. Too comfortable being autonomous. Yeah, great question. I drew this card the other day, which was, Taya, you might check out, oh no, maybe it was a story, not a Facebook post. It was the Virgin card, and the Virgin archetype, the light side was like embodying purity, embodying like angelic radiance, you know. That's the light aspect. And then the shadow aspect was fear of intimate union. So if we're afraid of enmeshment, if we're afraid of intimate union, if we're afraid of getting too close, basically, what's the worst that could happen? What is at stake? What loss is at stake? What are we afraid, or who are we afraid we might become if we get too close? What's the worst that could happen if someone sees things in us, aspects of us that they don't like? What if we let someone in all the way, all the way? They see everything about us. And what if they reject us? What if they make a face? What if they make a disgusted face in your most vulnerable moment? So the pain where that lives, it exists in the body, right? Like all trauma, that pain exists in the body. And either in a safe scenario or simply in a triggered scenario, that pain is showing us exactly where we haven't given ourselves permission to embody the frequencies that the other person is giving us when we are showing our pain to them. I'll try and say that again because that's kind of a long sentence. So, thanks, Iman. Many blessings, brother. So, if we desire deeply to be seen, if we desire deeply to have our pain seen by somebody, and they make a face at us, and that pain starts to flare up and hurt, that is showing us, here is where I do not give myself permission to see myself and give love to myself. And here is the exact spot in my body where the only way I am allowed to feel love is when somebody else gives it to me. You feel that? So getting into what's really vulnerable and what's really sticky and trusting deeply and cultivating a safe space and whether it's seen or not seen, whether we're seen accurately or not, whether we're triggered or not, whether we're actually safe in our vulnerability or not, the experience is going to give us insight if we stay conscious during it, right? If we don't stay conscious during it, we can be re-traumatized. Let's get real. Lots of us get re-traumatized in relationship because we don't know how to set boundaries. We don't know how to hold ourselves. We don't know when to take a step away and experience the pain in a safe way when maybe our partner wasn't able to hold us properly. So there's magic that is going to come up either way, but whether we know how to process that magic is different. So in this moment, I just want to encourage everybody, recognize your pain threshold. Make yourself vulnerable in a relationship to the extent that your partner is able to hold you. Make yourself vulnerable to the extent that your fear isn't taking you off the deep end or throwing you under the bus. We talked about today, we have this fear threshold that you're essentially safe enough to get to, and when you've gotten to that, you can thank your partner, you can thank the person you're speaking with. Thank you. I feel that I've gotten to my pain threshold. Now I need to go be by myself and cry. Or I need to go talk to my friend and be held. Or I need to go take a bath. Whatever it is, to really just relax into it. So getting so vulnerable that it pushes our comfort zone but doesn't cross our own boundaries, right? That's the sweet spot right there. We don't want to be in our comfort zone because that's where our conditioning lives, but we also don't want to cross our own boundaries because that's self-abuse. So find that sweet spot and being able to really get to know our inner archetypes and get to know the value systems of each inner character so that we know exactly what the boundaries are and we know exactly how to formulate that sweet spot. Make sense? It's cool. So I think I'm going to wrap up now. Feels like I covered a lot of ground, and yeah, if you didn't make it for the whole video and you want to know more about this topic, definitely would encourage you to watch again from the beginning. It should be ready in a few minutes. And yeah, I really appreciate your tuning in. This is a big topic. If you have more questions about, when I answer questions, I am not answering it from like myself. I'm like, you could say I'm channeling this information or whatever. I'm just looking at the construct of it, and I'm learning myself as I talk. So I'm not suggesting you ask questions like I know everything, but like I learn it as I go. So if you have any more questions about this stuff, let me know, and I'm happy to do another video on a more specific topic. And if you have any short questions, I can also answer them in the comments here. So thank you very much, and I wish you so many blessings in healthy, sovereign, empowered, loving relationships, and I will also be launching soon a Tao Play immersive theater experience for couples, so that will be really exciting. So looking forward to your evolution along with mine, and thank you so much. Many blessings. Thank you for the hugs and the appreciation. Take care. Bye.